Hello world! I'm excited because episode 4 of 3 Candid Questions is out. Yes! And I had the pleasure to interview the lovely Paula Torraco, who is a coach as well. And we spoke about so many interesting things. It's really an educative and inspiring conversation. Fun fact for you before we jump in. Paula actually gave me a session in the human design methodology that she now incorporates into her coaching, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And therefore, be energized, be inspired, and speak soon.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Paula, thank you for being here. Awesome to have this conversation.
Hi, Sabrina. Yeah, really nice. Really nice. I'm excited. I'm curious.
Yes, let's see where it takes us. So why don't you introduce yourself first a little for the audience?
Okay. Where to begin? I'm Paula Torraco. I'm from Argentina, but I'm based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I've been living there since 2013, and I've had many transformations in my life. So I called myself an industrial designer. Then I worked in a pharmaceutical company, so really corporate world. And in 2020, I decided to leave that job, and now I'm a coach. So I'm helping people, especially leaders and high achievers, to really live a life that they love and really give themselves permission to be who they really are. So,
which is so awesome, because that's exactly what this podcast is also all about. So it's a great connection there.
Yeah.
And but I interrupted you. You wanted to add something about yourself, please.
No, I think that that's pretty much what sums up my life experience, because that comes with everything, right? So it's just that probably I focused on how I've called myself, but in my own transformation, I've gone down like a spiritual path, right? So I learned not to identify myself with a role, right? So having many transformations was really helpful in actually helping me address these questions. You know, who am I? What am I here to do? What is my purpose? And how can I be of service and impact others in their own lives, right? So yeah, so that's me, I would say, in a nutshell. My family, my friends, most of them are back home. I try to visit them as much as I can. Now I'm actually in Budapest visiting a friend. She lives here for a few years. So this is part of actually me also allowing myself to be who I am and to design a life that I love, right? And live it. Yeah.
Really, really nice. And I just said before we started the interview how beautiful it looks where you are. So perfect setting for our podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You spoke about these different transformations that you have had. And I love that, because it makes clear that it's not just one event often that takes us to the life that we really dream of, but it's sort of a process. And what do you feel were like the major transformational events that took you to where you are today?
Okay, so I think everyone's journey is very particular. It's very unique to themselves. And in my case, I was brought up in a very traditional way. I went to, school, university, because that's what I was supposed to do. And I really never challenged that. And then but I always felt like the urge of doing something different, right, with my life. But I was never taking that step because mandates and because of, how I was brought up and like who I thought others were expecting me to be, right?
Yeah.
So starting with that, actually what happened to me is that I really needed a shake from the universe to actually dare and and take those steps into my own transformation. So what happened, the first thing that really shook me was that I lost all my material belongings. So right, so I briefly what happened is I was on holidays, and when I went back home, my apartment had been robbed, and I lost everything. Like I lost everything that I owned, like my savings, my laptop, my clothes. They really took everything. So for me, that was kind of a life saying, okay, you need to start over. I needed to start over. And then I was like, hey, what do I want to do moving forward? Right. So I needed that, because otherwise I would have never taken a decision, I would say. And I think that for some people, that's the case. You need to be very uncomfortable so that you actually say, okay, now how do I want the next part of my life to look like? So this is for me one of the things that sort of started shaping that. And then when I decided to move to the Netherlands. I had no friends, I had no job, but I felt good there. So that was an indication of like, start to listen to your body, not so much to your mind, but also like, how do you feel? And I thought I would be, I said I was an industrial designer. I worked as an industrial designer for 10 years and I moved when I was 30. So it was very interesting because I thought I'm going to be doing the same, but in a different country. And that was not the case. So I started working in customer service in a pharmaceutical company. And then the questions were like, wait a minute, well, who am I if I'm no longer an industrial designer? Who am I if I'm not surrounded by my friends and family and having all the plans all the time, And so this is where I started going inwards. I realized I didn't know how to do that because I was always surrounded by people, and to some extent, though, their expectations of who I was shaping my own experience. Right. So I think that those are the things that I needed that discomfort to go inwards and to start shaping. And then since then I started getting new tools. I went into I started meditating. I actually transformed my whole life. So from how I eat a plant-based diet, for example, which coming from Argentina was
a big one, I can imagine.
Exactly, and I started like sort of changing the way that I relate to myself and I relate to the world around me from a new awareness. So so that's why. And then it's as always as if I'm responding to what life gives me with a new awareness. So I did a really nice career because I'm very driven. I'm very career oriented. So I did this awesome career in this pharmaceutical company, which was already a little bit like I'm vegan, or I eat plant-based. How do my values align with that? But I always found a way to just bring life into that environment, which was very performance, results driven, and so on. And then at some point, I realized that my managers were profiling me in a certain direction, and they were saying, okay, maybe you should pick up those studies and everything. And I'm like, because I ended up being a regional manager with teams in Spain, in Italy, in Amsterdam, right? And they were profiling me to do to a certain profile that did no longer resonate with me and my personal journey, right? So I thought, well, no, that was also like a confrontation moment where I was like, well, that's not what I want to do, but what is it? And then that's the question. Okay, if that's not what I want to do, what is it that I want to do? And this is what I see now with my clients, right? A lot of people don't know what they want to do. They know what they don't want, or what they don't like, or what they don't enjoy, but they are not so much connected with what they really want to do, or what are they here to do. And helping them craft that knowledge or that understanding for themselves, the notion, and then how to actually make that happen in their life. So so eventually I created my own role as culture manager, bringing well-being and sustainability into the organization. That was a great thing. I did it for 2 years, and then in 2020 that role could no longer continue as such. So I had to make a decision whether to stay doing something that again didn't feel so resonating with me, or actually take another leap of faith. And which I did eventually, and I left the corporate world to start my own coaching practice.
Yeah.
So
and again, it shows how it's sort of steps where every time we hit a wall and we have to make that decision, like, okay, how do we want to proceed from here? Do we want to do something that doesn't resonate anymore? We always have that choice, in fact, do we want to do something it's more in line or not? But I had a question in mind, like when you said you needed that shake from the universe, so that, you losing everything in Argentina. Do you think it really started with that? Or do you think it started with this deep feeling inside of you that you did somehow want to do something else?
I think that's a very good question. I think I always sensed, connected with that. So I always sensed that I would have an experience somewhere else, right? So, for example, I know I had already been looking into doing a master's in Milan, or doing something like further studies abroad as a way, but that was because that's the only thing that I had in my awareness. I didn't know that there were other ways, right? So I always sensed that. So for me, when this happened, I was like, okay, how can I turn this experience into something positive, right? So I think that there was something that I was not really listening to, this idea of having experience abroad. And this was kind of like, okay, what are you going to do now, right? So, and I love what you said about always having a choice, because I could have stayed. I could have stayed. We always have a choice in whatever, and we always have a choice in how to transform any experience into something that is for our growth. I mean, I didn't know how it would be to move to a new continent with no friends, no job, no nothing, right? But then, I always like this idea of like, you can make plans, but then the universe will take you. You are always going to be where you're supposed to be, but the important is to actually keep tuning in to what feels right in the moment, right?
Yeah, many people I've spoken to have sort of gone on transformational journeys. They have said something similar, that once you are intentionally thinking about your journey and where you want to be and taking action steps towards that, it seems like things are coming to you. Doors are opening where you then have the choice, okay, do I want to, walk through, or is it another door? And things start coming together and taking you on that journey.
Absolutely. For example, when I left the corporate world, I thought, okay, I took a few months to figure out what I wanted to do, because I knew, I knew that was no longer something for me, but I didn't know exactly how to shape what I wanted to do, right? So there was something bubbling up, but I could not really define it to the to the details and everything. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna be doing what I was doing, so sharing well-being and training people how to take care of themselves, and sharing this, raising the awareness about how important it is to regain that. I feel the biggest issue that we have is that we are disconnected from ourselves, and then from others around us, and then the world. So I was teaching that, right? So I thought, okay, I left the corporate world, but I can offer the same services independently. And so I set out to do that. I put my website, I did all that. And then what happened is that actually former colleagues were reaching out and saying, hey, do you also offer one-on-one sessions, one-on-one journeys? So, and then I started doing that, and I didn't know that. So I was like very transparent, like, hey, we can try. Let's see. I didn't set out to do this, but let's, let's give this a chance. And this is all I'm doing now, right? So it's sort of I took action and I put myself out there, but then I was really open to see what the universe was bringing me, because that's the redirection, right? It's like, okay, I'm available, but it's not how I thought it would be. It's something else. And being okay with that, not being like super, fixing that this is the way. It's like, oh, this is coming my way, so why not just open that window of possibility?
That's very important what you're saying. That's why I want to make a short stop there. This thing of attachment. Because once you get attached to a specific outcome and you start having specific expectations, that's when frustration and blockages actually are created in our minds. But when we say like, okay, the general calling or my general dream is like this and that, this is how I want to feel, what I want to do, and we let go of attachment, it takes us on a good path.
Absolutely. In the Buddhist tradition, attachment is one of the main causes of suffering, because we're trying to hold on to something, of an idea or of how things were in the past, and that actually prevents us from living in the now and being open to possibilities and everything. So you're fixed on something, and then you might be losing track of what is for you. And I know that also in the past. I know this happened to me 10 years ago. I was still in Argentina. I was like, okay, I'm an industrial designer because I love to provide solutions. I love to provide realistic solutions and solve problems. And there's a quality about not making it about yourself, but about serving others, making the world a better place, right? So I thought, okay, why don't I go into something related to corporate responsibility in companies? Because again, that was the mindset that I was at the moment, that awareness. And I just ignored that, because I was like, oh, no, I'm going to be doing, because for my career, it's better to do a postgraduate, like a degree in strategic project management, because project management was, so I sort of ignored, it was better for my resume or something. So I sort of ignored something that was calling me, right? So, and it came back to me again 10 years later, so I also believe that whatever is meant for you is going to keep showing up until you actually say, okay, I see you.
Let me take this.
Exactly, I see you. But it's very interesting, because I think that we will only pay attention when we're ready. Right? So I like to believe that everything is perfect as it is, and we're exactly where we're supposed to be, and that we operate to the level of our awareness. So in that time, I was not there yet.
Yeah. So other things first had to happen and to take place for you to actually be able to take that opportunity or the calling.
Exactly. Right. And now, again, for example, we did this session on human design, which I absolutely love, and I'm using this in my coaching practice. So this human design, it starts from the basis that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And as such, we come with a mission, and we come with a purpose, and we choose the perfect design to help us carry out our mission, right? But this was presented to me, I don't know, 4 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I don't, this is not for me. I don't resonate with that, And now, I think a year ago, it came to my awareness again, and it feels like I'm remembering something. So again, I think that's so powerful. It's like, give it time, and whatever is meant for you will find you. But it's also about you opening up and saying, okay, what's there for me?
Absolutely. And that trust, I think, is really staying in that space of trust is a challenging thing for many humans. So is there anything, like if someone is watching this and thinking, yeah, but how do I trust? How do I make sure I stay in that space? Is there any advice you would give them? How do you do it?
I think it's all about surrendering, right? So again, I bring a lot of spirituality in my practice, because I think for me spirituality is not related to religion or to anything, but it's actually understanding or having this deep notion that we are part of something bigger.
Yeah.
Right. So we're here to have our own human experience with all that it comes, right, and all that it entails. But it's actually knowing that we are part of something bigger. So for me, that's the trust, right? That it's sort of surrendering to whatever life brings to you, and try to find a gift in that situation. I think that's the proactive thing. Okay, what's here for me? What's in here for me to learn, right? So, and then if I could give an advice, I would say look backwards and see how actually everything that happened to you had a reason. Brought you to where you are, right? So I think it's so important to live in the present, but just like learn from the past and just connect the dots backwards. I had to go, for example, I'm helping people design their lives. And I studied industrial design. So, it sounds completely unrelated, but I know how to take on a problem and help someone find their right solution, right? So I think that's the way. It's like one kind of surrendering, that you can have a really good idea, or you can know exactly what you want, or what you think you want, or what you think is best for you. That's the thing. But then trust that you are being supported and that you are being guided, divinely guided, because there's a bigger purpose than just, you're here to do something. And it can be just mother your kids, or it can be actually being an activist. Everyone has a perfect role, right? So but knowing that for yourself, or like seeking that, I think that's really important, because then you can find alignment.
Absolutely. And it's also sort of, you hear this a lot, like enjoy the journey, don't just be there to work 9 to 5 or just the routines, but really learn how to enjoy life. And I think it's a big part of it. Once we understand it's a process, and like really it can be a beautiful process, despite everything that comes up. And sometimes it's really overwhelming and emotional and we feel it's hard. But as you say, like the surrendering can make it like something very worthwhile, let me put it that way.
Exactly. I think that was my biggest learning throughout the last transformation for me, like this, like, because there's always like, who am I to actually help others find their way,
Yes.
But in the end, that's what the universe was bringing to me. Like, people are actually asking for my advice, or my not my guidance, because we as coaches don't give advice, but we help them find their answers, right? But I know I can, because I've been through that. I've done it myself, so I know how the person is feeling, or I can empathize with that, and then ask certain questions based on that to help uncover what's there, right? But I think that you can make plans, but then, so I always say, make plans, but be open to whatever comes your way, because that is the trust. You want to make plans, and mostly people that are career oriented, like, you want to have perspective, you want to have direction, right? So make plans, but just be open to what comes your way, because there might be something there for you that you may overlook, which eventually will be fine, because it will find you probably later. But I think it's so important to make plans, but stay open and surrender to what life gives you.
And if there's someone in the audience who's sort of listening and thinking, oh, yeah, this resonates with me, I somehow feel maybe stuck in something that I don't want to be in, but I don't really know. And but maybe I can start exploring very gently. What would you say they could do to start on a very gentle journey?
You mean in general, or specifically career-wise, or?
I would say in general, if you have general advice, like, what would you say to a person who really feels like, okay, there's something that is calling me, but I can't really put my finger on it, but something doesn't sit right. But they are maybe also afraid to take big steps. Like we have that a lot in coaching, right? We meet someone and there's definitely something, but the big steps are not yet there to be taken. It's the gentle exploration that they maybe takes them then towards the bigger thing.
Yeah, okay. So I would say start with self-development, just like really get to know yourself. I think that's the thing, because then you can start answering questions like, okay, what really excites me? What can I do? What can I do? But asking yourself these questions, right? Like, what can I do, for hours and hours, and I can just like, lose track of time. When am I in flow, right? So,
yeah.
And then you can start thinking, oh, maybe there's something for me here, right? What frustrates me? Because sometimes that frustration is a source of something that you're meant to be doing, The other question that I love when someone is completely like, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about, or I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing something. And I love this question, what makes your heart break?
That's an interesting question.
What makes your heart break open? Not just because it's breaking open. What is calling you to actually take action? That's compassion, right? So for some people might be, and normally our purposes have to be with something related to other humans, right? So improving the lives of others, or just making sure that everyone has food, or that the well-being of everyone, or that there's justice, or that there's, everyone has equal opportunities, or everyone feels invited to dance, like that, right? So that could be, some other people might see, well, I can just not see an animal choking with a straw. So what are you doing with that, right? So that could be, if you're completely lost, that could be something to start, like clearing out or getting clarity on. So, but I think that doing this work where, and that's why I love the work that we do as coaches, is because sometimes people come with really clear ideas. Hey, I dread Sundays, Sunday evenings, I get so depressed of what I need to do on Monday morning. So it's very clear. But some other people are like, I've got everything that I want, or I thought I wanted, but I'm not feeling fulfilled. So how are you using your energy? What cause are you using your energy for? What are you contributing to, right? So what is it that you want to live in the world?
Yeah, that's very powerful. And it makes me think, Summer, because you're talking about energy, about our human design session that we had, where it's also about like, what sort of energy type are you actually? I found that super insightful. And with me personally, it resonated totally, which was, super crazy. But just this, okay, where do I actually get my energy from? How do I generate it? Can you maybe talk a bit more about different types that people might be in terms of energy?
Yes. So human design, it's a system that it's kind of a new one, because it was developed in the 80s. And it's very interesting because my understanding is that it was channeled to help parents educate their kids, because I think most of the big structures are falling, and as such is the way that we are educated all in the same kind of model, in the same kind of way, and we are different. So Human design, the starting point in human design is understanding what is your energy type, right? And energy type, as you said, you were a generator, right? If I'm not wrong. So 3-5, I think, right? Yeah,
exactly.
So that is already telling you what is your profile and what is your energy type. You are a generator, and you have an infinite source of energy to do many things throughout the day and throughout your life, as long as they are in alignment with what really excites you. That is super. When you're not, you end up in frustration, right? So this is why it's so important to understand what is your energy type. And like, okay, if you're feeling frustrated about something, it's like, okay, what are you, like, really, what's going on here, right? That's why I say, human design is just a tool that I personally love, because I feel like people feel truly seen and understood and given permission to be who they really are. Because as a generator, and I'm also a generator, when we are in our flow and doing what really excites us, we have infinite source of energy, and we create our own energy. The same is true for manifestors, which is another kind of energy type, and manifesting generators. They also create their own energy. But there are other types like projectors or reflectors, which they don't produce their energy. They take it from the environment, right? So they have a smaller battery, but that it's more efficient. And as such, they are not here to be the doers. They are here to be the strategic thinkers. And there's no energy type or to reflect. The reflectors are actually here to reflect the well-being of the environment. So there's no, sometimes generators are like, oh, I'm not a strategic thinker, I'm not this, like they feel sort of disappointed because they are the majority. But we need that. We live in a world that needs us to be creating good energy, right? As long as we know what really excites us and we are working towards that. So generators have the energy to be doing so many things throughout the day, and then drop that in the evening, but satisfied, right? So that's why I think it's super interesting. And then you have the profiles, and then you also have information on how you how you best make decisions, for example, right? So we are taught, unfortunately, we're taught like use your head to make a decision, and that's not true. We make decisions based on our intuition or our gut. We know it's the second brain, or our heart, or our emotions, or like by taking information from the environment and just using that as a sounding board. But it's never with the mind. Actually, when a generator, which is very much related to the sacral response, wants to make a decision, the mind is going to be coming with justifications or with stories or with oh, this would look better. No, if it doesn't feel right in your gut, then it's a no-go. And it could be that it's something for you, but the timing is not correct. Right? And so there's so much information. Also, like, what is your strategy, right? Like for generators, the generators type, the strategy is to respond. And that's why, going back to my own experience, right? Like I was doing something, but then the universe brought me the one-on-one coaching, and I responded to that based on what felt good. It excited me. It was like I was thrilled about it. It's something that I should be doing. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For other energy types, the energy is the strategy is different. So that's fascinating. It gives you so much information.
Yeah, and I mean there are many different methods and tools out there that we can base like sort of who we really are and a bit of self-finding on. So human design is something that excited us when we did it, but of course, just for the audience, you can go out there and explore so many different things and see what really suits you in settling down on, okay, who am I? Where do I get my energy from? What should be my strategy? How do I make my decisions? I think it's so crucial what you said about decision making, because often it's very much influenced by objections, I don't know, rules, obligations, everything that's here.
Expectations.
Yes, expectations. So really stepping out of that and into, okay, how am I feeling about something? Once we learn how to do that, it can be extremely powerful.
So much so. So there's so much truth there. So again, and I love what you say, this system resonates with me. I love that it's not a test that is based on your objectivity or subjectivity. It's actually based on astrology and the date of birth and the location and the planet. So there's a scientific component to it based on quantum physics, and it's a spirituality and science, which they are not unrelated in a way, and it's not based on subjective answers or objective to the best of your ability, right? So I love that. But again, I think what you're saying is super interesting. Like, find what resonates with you and discard the rest, right? But be open to new ways of doing it. I think that's the thing, because you are biased by what you know or what you have been conditioned, right? Or mindset, or like I used to be, I did not value anything that had to do with this. I was brought up, and I only valued scientific development. I was an industrial designer. Philosophy for me was like, well, when are you going to actually get a real thing, right? Like, when are you? I used to be that person. I was like this, and then I was like, oh my God, I just love this. But there was some information there for me. It was easier to criticize something and to judge it than to actually see what I had to learn from them. And
good learning also. And I think also a good golden nugget for everyone who's watching or listening, this idea of sometimes when we are very like, oh, don't give me this, it's good to listen to that, but also consider that at a later point in time there might be something there for you, because there's something in us looking down on something or someone or whatever it is. There's
absolutely there's big learning there always. So I also think that some people say, oh, people don't change or anything. No, that's not true. Like, I think that people, let's say, maybe they don't change, if you will, but they reconnect with their true essence, and that is possible, because most of the time we're so disconnected because again, for conditioning of learning or upbringing or whatever. And when you are really attuned to who you really are and what you stand for, and really your essence, then it feels like you have changed.
Yes,
you just have found alignment, I think. And I think that's what we're meant to do. We're here to really be who we are. And when people do that, it's sort of as if they would understand that they are here to do something that is for the greater good. It's not just for them, it's for the greater good.
Yeah. And that is so beautifully said that I'll make it the last word in this interview, because it was wonderfully phrased. And I think it's a thing to take away also for the audience. Like, let me reflect and think about what am I really here to do, and what do I feel?
Yeah.
What do you feel really? Okay.
Yeah. What feels
so
true.
Much.
No, thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it, and we'll stay tuned. And if anyone that is listening wants to explore more about anything, I'm always open to connecting.
Yes, awesome, Paula. Thank you for opening that door. I'm sure many people will be excited to hear that, because it's so much you have to give. So enjoy the rest of your stay in Budapest.
Thank you. I will. Thank you. And thank you again for having these sessions where you can raise consciousness and awareness. I think that you're doing something really great. You know, people need to listen to other stories and listen to other stories and know other experiences, because they might be reflecting and feel alone in their own experience, and there's nothing more far than that. So yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Paula.
Thank you, Sabrina. Take good care.
Speak
Have a good
soon.
day.
Bye.
Yes. Bye bye. Bye everyone.